Now let me see. Yes. Does anyone else have fun plans for the weekend? If you can call Six Flags with 4 15-year-olds fun.
My sister and I and our families are teaming up, and we're putting new flooring throughout my parents' house this weekend.
Putting what through?
Fun, but it'll be fun.
Ron, what are you putting throughout your parents' house?
New flooring.
Oh, new flooring. Oh, that doesn't sound fun. That sounds
There's enough
hard.
of it, but it won't be bad.
Let's see.
I'm hoping for at least a partial day to myself.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah, I think my husband's gonna take our daughter fishing, so
Well, that'll be fun.
yeah.
Some chat. Oh, soccer weekend, Terry? That sounds like fun. Your pool's just now closing, Tony? Ours closed a month ago. I'm jealous. Okay. There's not as much on today's agenda as usual, I don't think, so we may make it out of here in like an hour and a half. That'd be a good day.
I'd be okay with that.
Huh?
Those 2-hour meetings make my hand cramp a little bit.
For Rebecca's sake, we're cutting these down to 1 hour from here on out.
Please have mercy. Oh.
It's 9:59. It's 10 o'clock on the dot. Okay. Let's see. All right, guys, I've got 10 o'clock on the dot, so I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And as usual, the first order of business is minutes. Those minutes went out in the email. I hope everyone had a time kind of to briefly look over them. Are there any questions or discussion, corrections to the minutes?
I love how there's proper names. I love that. Miss Midget, Mr. Campbell.
That's the
But with
that is the
means-
proper way to take minutes, in my opinion. So I think that is good. That's what we do in our board minutes. I think that's great.
So I would make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Wonderful. Sue Lightfoot has made a motion. Do we have a second? Anyone?
This is Ron.
Okay, Ron Eifert has seconded. Any further discussion? If not, I'll say all those in favor. Uh-oh.
Aye.
Aye, perfect. Any opposed? Okay, so I'll go right into the executive update. Rolla Public Library came on September 9th. Welcome, Rolla. We're glad you're here. We do have a new director at Cedar County that's taken over in the middle of a migration. Her name is Tiffany. I think she has hit the ground running, and that migration still seems like it's on its correct timeline. It'll still be able to come online on November the 4th. They are also rebarcoding. So there's a lot happening at Cedar County. Polk County is their migration team. And I know Colleen's working really hard to keep them on track. So at this time, I think that Cedar County will still come online on November 4th, even with the change in the director. Reynolds County should be coming on January 20th. We just set up their migration team. Again, Reynolds County is not automated, so they're not bringing in any records. They're going to add all their items to existing Missouri Evergreen records, and they're going to issue a new card to their patrons once they go live. So really, this is going to be, from the Equinox side, a pretty easy migration. They're just going to have to set up Reynolds as an organizational unit. And then Poplar Bluffs, their migration team, we're going to try to go on site for about a week and help do add items live there at their library. They have 5 locations, and they estimate a collection of about 60,000 items.
Shannon,
Yes.
do we know what percentage of their collection?
Guys, I'm sorry. I think my Wi-Fi is not great today. You cut out some, Steve. I think you asked.
Maybe it's me. It's raining here pretty badly. I said, what percentage of Reynolds County's collection will be remaining that will not be added onto existing records? Do we know?
I don't have I only have an approximation. I'm going to say less than 5%, but I'll find out a better number and update you in December. And if not,
Oh, wow. Okay.
sooner. Yeah, I don't think they have anything outside of really popular materials. Maybe a small.
Well, that's
local-
promising.
Yeah, maybe a small local history book collection, or local genealogy books, but that would be it. Good news. Rawls County signed their MOU. I got that by email yesterday. So he and I are going to have a Zoom meeting tomorrow, so we can kind of talk about timeline and what the migration process will look like and when they'd like to come on board. We do have 2 migration spots still open for FY22. So I'm not sure when I haven't talked to him at all, so I don't know if he's under contract with his ILS or what time he wants to migrate in, but we'll be having that meeting tomorrow. Outside of that,
So-
I've also heard from St. Joe.
We have one more then after that.
Yes, if he wants to come
Oh,
in
sorry, I am,
FY22.
my feedback is bad.
If he wants to come
So-
in FY22, we'd have one more migration spot. He may want to come in 23. I don't know what his current situation is with his ILS. I will say also, the director there is Brian. I'll have to find it for you. I'm not sure his last name.
Oh, yeah, I'm trying to,
Brian Cleveland.
that's right. I was
Thank
trying to
you.
picture his name tags. I remember
Thank you.
talking to an MLA.
Thank you.
So we have no one else on the radar for this year, though.
St. Joe is presenting to their board October 20th to join. So we'll know more next week.
But aren't they under
Um,
contract for a couple more years? I thought.
I don't know, Steve, I don't. I have to find out.
It's my understanding talking to Mary Beth that, yeah, they're under contract for a couple more years still.
Okay. And I
So it
have,
wouldn't be this year for sure.
I also don't know what the contract length is for Missouri River Regional, and they haven't made a decision, but they've asked for more information, and they seem really interested in
Yeah.
resource sharing with, they already resource share through Mobius. So, but they realize now that there's so many publics and the collections the collection size more competitive now with Missouri Evergreen than it was in years past. And so they are seriously looking at Missouri Evergreen. And I've sent information to Claudia Cook. So those are the three that I know of. I think one other library has asked a few questions, but I don't know how serious they are.
So what happens to the migration money for a fifth library if we don't do one this year? How much is that money and what happens to it?
Missouri Evergreen no longer writes the grants for migrations. The individual library does that. So the only grant money we have now is toward hosting and support.
Okay,
And the
that's right.
cataloger.
Good.
And the consortium cataloger. Let me not forget that grant money. So.
Leanne,
Wow,
Leanne, we're not getting any of that, Leanne. It was all just static. Sorry. Can you type your message maybe? That was Leanne. It looked like that was trying to talk, but it was really, really bad.
Leanne, if you type something in the chat.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, that's totally clear now. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I guess my microphone settings was not correct. I was just going to mention that in our onboarding meeting, in our timeline for the migration, we discussed making sure, since the grants are being written by the libraries joining, that is kind of part of the timeline, and they know when they need to start writing that, pretty much as soon as they sign the MOU, and to decide on what they need to ask for in the grant, whether they need, funds for rebarcoding, additional staff, things like that.
Thank you, Leanne. That's really good feedback and input. And that's part of what I wanted to talk to Rails County about tomorrow. But I do think we need something maybe more formal written down that we can give libraries that they can think about as they're making their decision and planning when they want to come on board. So all of our membership is aware, in case you get questions about potential libraries who want to join, the library automation grant is an open deadline grant, so you can apply at any time. They're turning the Missouri State Library is providing an answer on that grant, usually around 2 to 4 weeks after it's submitted. And then they are working with libraries on cash flow. So I know that Equinox usually bills 10% at signing, and I think maybe 50% halfway through. So they have some different billing practices, and Equinox and the state library are really working out how to make sure if you're a smaller library and the cash flow isn't there to pay that bill up front, how to make sure the grant dollars are there in time for you to pay whatever's due to Equinox. So just kind of an update on how that grant process is working. It also does, as Leanne says, it covers your migration cost. It's covering partial, if not all, of your first year Missouri Evergreen fee. It provides equipment, so computers for checkout stations or computers for OPACs, barcodes, library cards, and it will cover personnel cost if your library wants to do an inventory, catalog cleanup, if it needs to rebarcode, things of that nature before, as a part of the migration process. It will give some funds toward personnel costs for that as well. So if you have libraries reaching out, asking you questions, you can kind of give them an overview of what the funding looks like if they're interested in joining. Any other discussion about upcoming migrations or libraries that are interested in Missouri Evergreen? If not, I'll move on to the next topic. I wanted to be sure the memberships still wants to move forward with upgrading to version 3.7 in April. We're currently on version 3.64. We did pass a policy, I think about a year ago, that we would do an annual upgrade around April of each year. The new version comes out like in October. And so we thought by waiting until April, some of those patches and bugs would be fixed before we moved on to the newer version. And I just wanted to revisit that topic and make sure we were still all on the same page, and we still wanted to move forward with upgrades in that same manner. So that way, when I talk to Rawls or other libraries that want to migrate in, I can plan their migration around that upgrade cycle. Any questions or comments about how we're upgrading? No? Is anyone opposed to upgrading? Okay. Well, I will reach out and make sure we're on the schedule for April. The Missouri Evergreen users.
And this is going to be an annual thing, correct? We talked about doing it once a year.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
That's great. I'm very much in favor of that for sure.
Okay. Yep. I just wanted to be sure, since we hadn't spoken about it much since our last upgrade. And I know that we did have a few, I think, hiccups with the 3.6 upgrade where there were some outstanding bugs. So I just wanted to open the floor for discussion in case anyone had hesitations about that before I reached out to Equinox. Okay. The Missouri Evergreen Users Conference did happen as a half-day pre-conference to MLA this year. It wasn't a large amount of attendance, but we did have some Missouri Evergreen libraries there, both potential libraries and current libraries. We did send out the presentations to the membership with the meeting packet. I have one more presentation on cataloging that I'll be sending out later. And then I'm going to ask Ron if he won't load those on the Missouri Evergreen webpage. It had some really good training information in there. So if your libraries are looking for training materials, I encourage you to look through those presentations. It linked back to some training materials we have developed for Missouri Evergreen, and it linked out to Equinox is now providing a video series on training on Missouri Evergreen that are really good. And we've linked to a lot of those through those presentations. Does anyone have feedback about the users conference? You're a quiet group this morning. Okay, the next thing is I'm going to try to schedule some regional in-person trainings around the state. To do that, I think I'm going to send out a survey to the membership and see what format works best. You know, do we need to do hybrid, live virtual ones that are recorded for on demand later, in-person ones only that we travel to. If we travel to them in person, I really think I would try to ensure that any library didn't have to travel more than 2 hours in any one direction. So geography isn't my strongest suit, so I'm kind of looking at the state now to see what that might look like. But I think we'll send out a survey and see what the most members want, and that's the platform, or that's the direction we'll move. Does anyone have input about trainings for Missouri Evergreen in person? What you might want to see, what your staff need, what would provide the most value to your library?
Shannon, if a library wanted in-person training, would we do that accommodation just for that particular library? Or is it your survey is just going to actually like generate where the need is and how they would like to have that training? Are we customizing the training for the different libraries? That's my question.
That's a great question. We have done some trainings for libraries that have reached out and asked for it. Primarily, we've done most of that virtually. So the chairs of the CERC and cataloging committee have set up a training with their library and done one through Zoom. When a new director's taken over or some other different situations occurred and they want some additional training. And the other thing we've done, we have done in-person trainings from a nearby member. So when libraries have asked, we've sent, we've reached out to a member that's close by and they've gone on site to do some trainings. So we can continue that. I don't see the regional ones being something in lieu of on-site training or virtual training for a particular library if they reach out and feel their staff need additional training. I would think regional in-person would be a layer on top of that. One of the things that I think would be nice, Steve Campbell, when he surveyed the members, he realized a lot of our members didn't realize some of the new features the ILS offered after we did some upgrades, especially if they had been members pretty early on. So I think one thing a regional in-person training could do is feature new enhancements that the newer upgrades have done to help keep everyone informed of what they can get through the app and through the OPAC. I know a lot of libraries didn't realize that you could keep your checkout history through the OPAC, and that was something that had come up in a previous upgrade. Is that someone? No. Any other input on that before I start drafting that survey to send out? No. Are there any training hurdles you're facing at your library that you think need to be addressed that we need to consider as we design this training? No.
I think reports are the one that is a roadblock for a lot of our staff, and it's been a hurdle that's hard to get past, but I know we're working on a new interface that'll make things more streamlined too, so maybe more appropriate to wait till that interface is in place to do that training.
Thanks, Meredith. That's a good one.
Someone's not on mute and is there someone not on mute who's I hear a lot of background noise.
Yeah, there is someone. I don't know who it is.
One that's come up at our library recently is the suspend holds function and how that works. And I could find the Evergreen documentation on it, but having someone actually walk through how it's supposed to work and the steps that you have to do would be really helpful.
One issue that I had come up was the carousels on the online card catalog. Evidently, they were updated, but I guess they weren't updated consortium wide. So that would be something that would be addressed in one of those regional trainings.
And I think I have an update on carousels that I could send out too, but that's a good one because I do think a lot of libraries ask that question.
And I guess I didn't quite understand why it wasn't consortium-wide updates, why you had to physically ask for them to be updated.
Yeah, I'm not sure either that it's
I think the issue with that was that a lot of them were custom code that Mobius did for us, and it's not supported in the new version. And so if you were on the one that wasn't custom code, then the upgrade took. If you were on a custom code, it didn't, I think, from what I remember.
That makes sense. So any of the early adapters from Mobius, they have the old carousels, and I don't think anybody realized that there was an updated version of the carousels. Anyway, so thanks for that explanation. I appreciate that.
Any other discussion on trainings? Okay, I hope to have a survey out. It'll probably be the 1st of November to ask about what type of trainings you'd like to see and what training platform works best for your library. We had one response to the what we did call the operational manager position when we posted it last time. I asked the board if they wanted to interview the single applicant or repost, and they asked to repost. So I've made an executive decision to rename that executive director just because I think it's more in line with what people would expect to see that position called. And I've resent it to MLA, but that's not posted yet. I've also posted it to Mala. And I did ask Amigos, but Amigos said that was a service reserved only for members. And as far as I know, Missouri Evergreen is not a member of Amigos. So we were not able to post to the Amigos job line. So hopefully we'll receive more applicants this round and start interviewing. If you know someone that you think would be interested in that position, please ask them to apply. It is almost fully remote. It's part-time. I think we're putting it at 20 to 25 hours a week. So it may be something a really great candidate could pair with another positioner. So that's where we are with that position. Any questions?
I think
When we-
change, oh, go ahead, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, when we posted the catalog, we didn't get a lot of movement from those two places, but once I put it on a listserv, you know, I don't know what kind of listserv you would put this position in. But that's, I got just as many, if not more, we got applicants directly from that posting than we did from posting it on these websites.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I may post it to ALA job line too, just to, I think that's what it's called, just to get more exposure to see if we can get more applicants.
I
It
know
is-
Indeed requires someone to monitor it too, but you can get some traction out of there. You get a lot of fluff
That's not a
too,
bad
but
idea.
it is free, but you get a lot of fluff too.
We post on, we get massive amounts of applicants from Indeed. We've had great luck with that. We've been using it extensively over the last year. We've gotten a lot of really good applicants through there that, especially for, well, even for part-time jobs, but even for full-time non-professional jobs, we've gotten a lot of good luck from that. But we talked about an MLA, Shannon and I did, about trying to think about thinking about individuals to possibly recruit. I just want to throw this out to anyone who is here just to kind of think, have there been any recent retirees of Missouri Evergreen libraries that someone might think would be interested in something like this? No one comes to the top of my head. I was just wondering if anyone thinks of anyone. No. I think changing the title was a good idea.
Okay. And I think I will post to ALA and Indeed, and I'll keep everybody up to date as we start. Those applications are coming into our group board email, board@moevergreenlibraries.org. I think that's the right email. So as soon as we have some applicants to interview, we will do that.
Shannon, off topic totally, but we just got another attorney's bill in. I know we send those to Evergreen. Who do we send it to? Amigos? Is that who
Yes.
we send those bills to? Okay.
moevergreen@amigos.org. I think.
Oh, you want us to email it though? Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
moevergreen@amigos.org. Okay, thanks.
Mhm. Thank you, Kristen. Yep. Next on my update list this morning is the cybersecurity update from Equinox. I did forward that out to the general membership and to the directors listserv yesterday. I will open the floor for discussion. I don't know if I know enough to answer any questions, however. If you have more questions based on the information I shared yesterday, I'm glad to schedule a meeting with Andrea, who is our account manager at Equinox, who could answer detailed questions you may have about backups and data protection and data security. I read to about the middle and decided that it was way above anything I would be able to understand and hit forward. So I'm not sure I'm the man to answer those questions. Is there anyone that would like to schedule a follow-up with Equinox about that topic? No. If you decide you want to, just shoot me an email and I'm glad to set up that meeting if you have more questions. And finally, usually the December meeting for Missouri Evergreen is held in conjunction with MPLD. I won't be at MPLD. They did reach out and ask if we wanted to schedule a room, but I wasn't sure what the technology situation was, and I didn't want to task someone with trying to set up a hybrid meeting at MPLD without me being there and trying to help them troubleshoot it remotely. So I'm just planning on holding Missouri Evergreen's December meeting at the same time, same date as usual, in the same manner. Future chairs may decide to couple that with MPLD moving forward, but since I'm not going to be at MPLD, I just thought this was easier, at least for me, So I hope that's not a problem in scheduling 2 meetings when you're used to having it all compacted together. But that's all I had this morning. So does anyone have questions for me? That took 26 minutes. I'm not doing very good at keeping to Rebecca's 1 hour timeline. Rebecca, I'm sorry. I'll do better next time, I promise.
I'll forgive you this time.
Thank you. If no further questions for me, I'll turn it over to Sue and Amigos with the financial reports.
Well, I usually just turn it straight over to Kristen with Amigos. So that's what I'm going to do again today. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. So we do have the September financial reports. It is the first month of the new fiscal year. There was a lot of income generated because we sent out the membership billings, the Evergreen fees and the synthetic fees. So you're just going to see a lot of income because that's the annual billing. You also had a pretty big bill from Equinox, also an annual bill of $82,000. So lots of big transactions this month, but that's not too surprising since it was the first month of the fiscal year. And yeah, really, those are the only main things. I mean, we did, the cataloger did start, so we're now paying the cataloger every couple of weeks. And yeah, there's a little bit of legal expense for looking over that contract. But yeah, that's about it. We also had the quarterly management services fee as well for us. So
Kristen, could you tell us again how much is in the reserve fund? The 163,756, that's the reserve amount right now?
yes, that is the
Okay.
reserve fund.
I wanted to
And
be
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
I'm going to be talking a little bit about the new special projects fund later in the meeting when it's
Okay,
the Amigos part. But yeah, the reserve fund currently has $163,756.90.
any
Did anyone have
questions?
any questions? Yep.
Does anyone remember what our reserve requirement or what our reserve goal is for that? I don't remember, honestly.
I think it's 50% of the prior year's operating budget, but give me a
Which-
second and I'll tell you exactly. Yes, 50% of the previous year's operating budget.
What would that be, Kristen? Do you know? What our last year's operating budget was without it being in front of me?
One moment, I
I'm
can
just
look that
curious
up.
if we're over or under or near that figure at all.
All right, so the F1 or the F21 operating budget, your total, okay, total, yeah, your total revenue was projected at 372,000. Net revenue was 38,000. Operating expenses were at 17,000. Oh,
17,000.
yeah, 17,625 was the total operating expenses for.
I guess
Uh,
what's program and operating together? So total expenses, yeah.
Yeah, total expenses were $334,183.13.
So it looks like we're right at 50% or very, very close.
Mhm.
Okay, that's good. Thanks.
Any more questions for Kristen or Sue about this month's financial statements? If not, we'll go right into the cataloging committee report with Nate. I'm not sure if Nate's on the call this morning.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, wonderful.
Good morning, all. So kind of as we see here on the agenda, first thing we want to talk about is our new consortium cataloger. Greg Whitmore joined us early in September. And if you had not had the chance to meet him yet, he was there at MLA, but I think he's also on the call today.
He is.
Oh, hello, Greg.
Hello, all.
So yeah, we've been working with Greg to get him up started with some training. I know I a few hours of training with him over Zoom. We've also been working with him, or he's been working and playing around in our test server. I think he's actually now starting to shift over into the live server, doing some merging, looking at records, trying to identify some of those issues that we're seeing. He's also already been jumping in and helping with a number of cataloging questions. I've seen him answer some of those in our listserv, and has already also been sending out some drafts and some ideas of what we've been working on with the certification and training. So definitely already hit the ground running, and we're glad to have him. In addition, I wanted to mention that this month's cataloging meeting was delayed. It was originally scheduled, or would have been scheduled for this Monday, the 11th, but due to a number of libraries being closed on that day, it has now been, or has been moved to the 18th, which is next Monday. And then really the last thing on my list is I just wanted to give a quick update on deduplication and kind of what we're looking at doing in the future. Kind of as I alluded to, I think at last membership meeting, or mentioned during last meeting and during the users conference excuse me, at MLA, we are kind of trying to reach out to other consortia to kind of see what they're doing to help with the number of records that are coming in with new libraries every year. And so far I've heard back from NC Cardinal, Georgia Pines, and Sitka. I know I've reached out to a number of other ones and haven't heard back quite yet, but so far it does sound like there's a variety of things that people are doing. Some of them kind of do their own thing and don't have a hosting service and might have somebody locally that does all of that, but some of them actually do work with Equinox as well. So it looks like there might be some alternative options that would work as well with our support from Equinox. So once we hear back, hopefully we're going to hear back from more consortia as well to kind of pool as many ideas as possible. But once we do, I plan to sit down with the cataloging committee, talk about our options, and then reach out to Equinox based off of what we found to see if there are maybe some better ways to approach new library migrations and the duplication of bibliographic records in our catalog.
So Nate, I think what you're talking about, when we bring in a new library, the highest match rate we've gotten so far is around 55 to 60%. Is that right?
Yeah, so
And so
while we were working with the last 3 libraries that joined, so particularly over the ones in the summer, we had reviewed bibliographic records to look for quality as before those were migrated in and matched. And even with that and working with Equinox to try to clean up as much as we could prior to, or work with those matching rules as things are being merged and brought in, we were still finding that only about maybe 55 at the most, 55% of those records were actually being merged the way we would expect them to be, and that the other items were just being brought in and weren't matching up as one would expect. And after working with Equinox, we found that a lot of those matching rules were kind of as strict as they could be based off of the I guess the technical side, the infrastructure that they're using and the procedures that they use to do the matching. I guess we're just kind of stuck at a point where we can't do there's not much wiggle room with the matching rules. So, how closely the title can match or how closely the page number can match. We're kind of limited in those areas. So yeah, we're trying to find alternative options to make that matching work better, or see if there's just something else, some other procedure that would be better for us to not have this issue in the future.
So what that means is when a new library comes in, there's thousands of records that have to be manually merged after migration.
Yes.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update that we have heard back from a few and are getting some ideas, and so hopefully we will come to some conclusion with Equinox in the future about that.
Any questions for Nate? Nate, thank you for all that you do in the cataloging committee. I know that you guys have a lot of work on your desk in relation to catalog cleanup and keeping the catalog accurate and reliable and clean. And I just want to say thank you to Nate, Kate, Ron, and all the other people that serve on the cataloging committee and do that work day after day.
Thanks, Shannon.
So I'll move on to Meredith McCarthy with the circulation report.
Hey, good morning, everyone. On the building best practices update, we have a working group established out of the circulation committee. We're still in the information gathering mode. Things got delayed by having to prep for the user conference and everything for MLA. In the course of this, a discussion kind of developed that also we probably need to update some of the documentation to have some clarity on the timing for when things are billed and where the item is versus how that communication is established. So that will get folded into this project as well. It's not on the agenda, and I'm guessing that Jane may be talking about it later with Mala, but as we've all seen, there's a lot of discontent on the lists about the courier system and the issues with things going through the postal service and libraries being billed for postage for things that shouldn't be in the postal system at all. So I know that was touched upon in some of the other meetings, but I wanted to just raise that flag again as well.
Thank you, Meredith. I did ask Jane to attend today's meeting, and she is going to provide some updates on the Mala section of the agenda. Any questions for Meredith or the circulation committee? No, I'm going to switch the agenda just a little bit. I'm going to ask Leanne to go ahead and report on onboarding because I believe she has another commitment and can't stay on the meeting much longer. Leanne, are you still on the meeting?
Yes, I am still here.
Thank you.
Yes, I just was going to say, as I mentioned before, that we had just kind of discussed adjusting the timeline to include a few things about the grant writing at the initial part of having a new library join. And we are going to have just quarterly meetings at this point, now that we've got most of the documentation and kind of aligning things out, that we'll just continue to meet on a quarterly basis and be able to communicate via email if there are things that come up, and schedule impromptu meetings if there is something that needs to be further discussed.
Leanne, you mentioned something about asking the migrating library, I guess, Missouri Evergreen team to also be a part of their Equinox remote trainings. Is that something?
Right, it was mentioned that if they can have time to join some of those remote sessions to just kind of sit in on the training and get an idea of what the new libraries are being trained in by Equinox and be available for answering questions that may be specific to Missouri Evergreen. And another thing that was discussed was that catalogers are probably not as needed on the go live day on location, because most of it's really going to be circulation issues that may pop up. So that may take a little bit of the focus off some of the catalogers where they may not have to be there on their live days. But other than that, I think that's about all that I really had.
I told Leanne I would try to come up with a post-migration survey to send out to newly migrated libraries, and I haven't done that yet, but I will work on that. So we haven't sent, I think Equinox sends out a survey to libraries, but Missouri Evergreen hasn't. And that's something I really think we should do to get feedback from those new libraries and see if there's anything we need to change or modify to make that transition smoother. So I need to work on that. Any questions for Leanne or for the onboarding committee? If not, I'll back up and turn it over to the reports committee. Steve, are you in the meeting today?
Steve as in me?
No, Steve
Oh,
Erickson, sorry.
Wrong, I was
Are you
gonna
on the
say wrong
reports
Steve.
committee?
No, absolutely not. I have nothing to do with that at all. Thankfully.
Since Steve's not here, I'll just jump in and say we're kind of going, we're still meeting monthly, but 1 month we'll have a meeting and then the next month we have a working meeting. We're still trying to get step-by-step instructions for each one of our reports. If you were unaware, on our website, under the reports training section, we have tens and tens of step-by-step instructions for specific reports that you may run, periodically or even regularly. So if you're looking for something and someone says, hey, why don't you try this report? You can come here and hopefully by now it will have instructions and it will help you run it. So this is currently what our committee is working on. We're doing all of this very specific step-by-step instructions while we are waiting with bated breath for our new reports module.
I don't have an update from Equinox on the timeline of that reports module, but I will reach out after this meeting and ask what that timeline looks like, and then I'll send it out to the membership just so we all know. Also, the reports committee, I think, has Steve and maybe Kate on it. So we desperately need more members to be a part of the reports committee and help do that work. It is really important work. They've done a tremendous amount on helping members understand what different reports provide which type of data. They do video tutorials, they do written instructions. It's really important work, and we need more people to help with that. So if there's someone at your library that's really strong on reports and they could be a member of the reports committee, please do encourage them to reach out and join. They can fill out the form on our Missouri Evergreen website. We have a committee form there, or they can simply email Steve and ask about joining, or just attend the meeting. Kate, do you know when the next meeting is?
It's actually in the process of being rescheduled. So
Oh, okay.
the next meeting is a working meeting. So
Can you send out the meeting connection details to the Missouri Evergreen membership as a whole for the next meeting and encourage people to join in?
Absolutely. I'll let Steve know that that's been requested.
Thank you. Any other questions for Kate or for the reports committee? I will say that we have signed the paperwork with Equinox to start the simple reporter, which is the name of the project they've given to the reports module development they're doing. The other contributor besides Missouri Evergreen was CWMRs. So I know that they've started that project. I just don't know when the timeline is, but I will ask for an update and I'll send that out to the membership and to the directors listserv, just so your libraries will know when to expect to see that change in reports. If no other questions for Kate, I'll move to reciprocal borrowing. Is Jeff here this morning? And if not Jeff, another member of the committee that could at least tell us when that group will be meeting?
Well, I can give an update, but there's not much update. So yeah,
Okay.
Jeff is the chair. I sent him information on Doodle. He sent a poll out, but the times were wrong and they were all AM or something. And so I sent it back because I told him that it was wrong. And he's working that out, but I haven't seen a new one come out yet.
Okay.
So I guess it's kind of just, he's in the process of trying to call a meeting is what we're at
Okay.
right now.
Okay. So we hope to have more for you at the December meeting then from the reciprocal borrowing committee. If there's no other questions for that committee, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Amigos.
All right, hi again, everyone. Yeah, just a quick update from us. As I mentioned previously, we did send out the annual Evergreen membership dues invoices at the beginning of September. We also sent out the Marchive invoices as well. We still have 22 open invoices, so we'll be sending out some gentle reminders pretty soon about that. Also, we did pay for $4,000 to Equinox for that open library initiative. And my understanding was that that is going to be paid for through a special projects fund. So we need to set up that fund. I'm not sure if that's something that you guys have to vote on or if you already approve that, but we'll need to know where the funds are coming from to fund that, if it's going to come from membership dues, which I kind of vaguely remember was discussed. Right now it was paid for through the reserve fund. So we just kind of need a little bit of guidance to set that special projects fund up, put funds into that, show the previous payment coming out of that fund, and kind of doing some background financial work on that. And then other than that, just a reminder that I'll be going on maternity leave at the beginning of November. Keith and Linda, my colleagues, will be helping you guys out. And so please just continue to use that moevergreen@amigos.org email address. If you email me directly, I will not be getting back to you until January. So I don't know if anyone had any questions, or Shannon, if you and I and Sue and Keith need to get together about that, getting that special projects fund set up.
I think so. I know you asked some questions by email and I didn't have the answers to your questions. So I think either with Sue Lightfoot as treasurer, or I don't know if we'll need to meet with the Missouri Evergreen Board as a whole to make some decisions about how, basically this is an accounting questions you're asking, right? It's not really going to change. It's just some, I don't know what impact one decision has over another, what the pros and cons are. So I don't know if you could discuss those with the group, and then we can make some decisions based on the information you give us.
I just remember during a previous meeting, you were kind of discussing how much you wanted to put into that special project fund each year, and that it was going to come from the membership dues. So we would just kind of need some clarification on that.
I thought in the fee schedule committee's report that was done, it has a percentage in there, I thought, of membership dues or something, didn't it?
No, it's not a step one. It says the membership or the board will decide each year, but not less than 1%. Let me.
Oh, not less. That's what it was. Not less than 1%. Yeah.
So we wanted to be sure something was committed, but we didn't want to set an amount because different years may vary.
I think originally, I was on that committee. I think originally we talked about wanting to do 3%, but we ended up saying not less than 1 because we knew that it could vary from year to year. So I think our goal was 3, but that's not really in writing anywhere though. So yeah, the board needs to decide, I guess. But I think our goal was to do 3 at least every year. I want to say that. Who else was on the committee here? Was it 3 or 5? I think it was 3.
I kind of remember that figure of 3% as well, Steve.
Okay, 3, there you go.
So I think what we'll do is try to schedule a meeting with the board and Amigos so they can give us some, they can ask their questions and give us some scenarios, and then we can make some decisions and vote on what to do and move forward. Because I think there's some different accounting methods that can be applied, and we need to make a decision on how we want to manage that moving forward. Part of it is we're calling it a fund, so is that separate from other revenues? There's just some questions there on how to reflect it in the financial statements and in the financial reports.
Yeah, it would be a restricted fund because it's intended specifically for the special projects.
Mm-hmm. So
in the light of transparency, the board will make those decisions, but we will come back to the membership and relay those decisions probably at the December meeting, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kristen? Thank you, Kristen, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck, Kristen.
And so next we'll turn it over to Mala, and I believe Jane is still in the meeting.
I am. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Jane.
I thought I'd start out like I did a couple weeks ago at the Missouri Library Director meeting. There's probably some new directors on here. There might be some new people who are just new to their position. So I thought I'd give a quick explanation of how the courier service works in the state, because it was really new to me. I worked in libraries for a long time, and it was new to me of how the division is, and it actually involves the IRS and the Department of Labor on some really specific legal things that can and can't be done when you're working with independent contractors, which was news to me when I took this job. So we contract with Henry, and then Henry is our overall contract. And so they have hubs around the state. You will hear us say, you're coming out Springfield hub or the St. Louis hub or the Kansas City hub. And at those hubs, then Henry contracts with what they call a master courier. And so that is someone who is their contract. And then the master courier hires all the independent contractors who are what we know as the drivers or the couriers. So those people are really not Henry employees. They are independent contractors. And as if you have ever had an independent contracting job, they get a 1099. So that's where the Labor Department and the IRS get involved. So even though there are times when I want to say, Henry, you need to fire this driver, we can tell this is the driver that is creating issues. I don't control that. And actually, Henry doesn't control that. So we can put pressure on the master courier by saying, hey, you missed the stop. It's out of we're not paying for you to make that makeup stop the next day. But that's about as far as our control is. Now, those master couriers, they're contracted. So if they're messing up or they decide the volume is too heavy or whatever, those contracts are between Henry and them. So when we say we're in contact with Henry, we contact their client services people, and we are in contact with them daily, multiple times a day, sometimes many times a day, sometimes a good day, just once. They then look to see what hub it came out of. They contact that master courier then to say, here's the problem. XYZ library didn't get delivery, or XYZ library gets delivery in the morning. It's now 3 o'clock. And then the master courier is who contacts the driver. So it's a pretty multi-layered system of, we're not really in, we can't call the driver, we can't contact the driver. That's not in the legality of the contracts. This is pretty standard, I think, through the industry when it's this kind of, door-to-door service, as they sometimes refer to it, that last mile service, but it's many miles in the state of Missouri. So I just kind of thought, I'm probably going to bring this up maybe every 6 or 8 months when there's new people involved, because it is a different than like a FedEx or a UPS, where those drivers are employees of those companies. These drivers are not Henry employees. They're independent contractors. They also drive their own vehicles. And I don't, so sometimes they drive along a lot of miles on those vehicles. And so they're not maintained. They don't have a fleet of vehicles like a UPS truck. So they do have a tendency to have some mechanical issues, which drives me crazy, but they don't. So that is on them. So I just wanted to make sure everyone kind of saw that, because it was surprising to me, that we had no control over those independent drivers. That's why it's really important for you to keep us on that web form. And if something you're like, I don't think I got the answer on the web form, give us a call in the office, because we will contact them and we will keep contacting them until we get an answer. Unfortunately, sometimes the answer is they just messed up. And right now they are having trouble, everybody is having trouble keeping employees. And so a lot of the times our errors are sub drivers. So if you see a sub driver, please just go up to them and say, are you going to be the new driver, or are you just here for a week? Sometimes they know, sometimes they don't know. Because that's where the master courier is probably given all the directions to the regular courier. They know it all. And then when a sub gets called in for whatever reason, sometimes those little things of which door to use, where is what do we do here, gets lost. And sometimes, these people aren't maybe necessarily the best customer service people. This is a different kind of job they have. So work with them, make sure you let them know your expectations. And then if you're getting weird comments from them, because we hear about that, we had somebody who said they were the son-in-law of the owner of Henry. Well, that's not true. It might be the son-in-law of the master courier, but the master courier is, just one of our cogs. So I kind of wanted that to be out there. Please let us know, because, for example, we found out through one of the couriers that drivers that the master courier, one of the master couriers out of the St. Louis hub, left Henry. They broke their contract, and so with very little notice. So I know it's affecting 8 of your Evergreen libraries. So I've emailed all of those libraries yesterday to let them know they will be having a new courier and there will be a new master courier. So there's probably going to be a week or so of learning curve on that because the master courier is also new. Usually when you get a new driver, the master courier hasn't changed. So they should just be trained. But I've heard back from all 8 of Evergreen libraries that they got my notice, and actually some of them had some of the new drivers coming in already. So hopefully that's good. So that's that. Post office, please, if you're getting any charges from the post office, put that on the form. We will cut you a check right away and then we bill Henry. We don't wait for Henry to pay you for that. The post office thing is the most puzzling to Henry. We have management and all the hubs looking at this, as opposed to what happened back prior to my starting, but kind of hit the fan right as I started with the Joplin hub. This one was pretty limited. We only heard about it for about 3 or 4 days about 2 weeks ago. We heard another one last week that I think was a trickle-in effect from that. They're puzzled. All it takes is these warehouses are huge. Someone may have dropped a bag in a wrong spot instead of being where the library stuff goes. No one knows, but they are all aware of it. We keep after them. I just had a conversation with our Kansas City person who's kind of heading up, trying to figure out what's going on with this post office thing. They're just puzzled. So, but I want to emphasize, if this happens, even if it happens just once, let me know, or on the web, through the web form, because as soon as it happens, we let them know. It's just hard to track down, where did it originate? Did it all come from one hub? This time it seemed to have come from a couple of hubs, which is really confusing them. So the more information we have, but again, if post office folks are asking you to pay postage, which is fully within their right, send that just the amount and we'll cut you a check. So I wanted to make sure that there had also been a question. I missed the August meeting, so maybe it was earlier in the summer. I did do some follow-up. We had a big meeting with some folks at Henry a while back. And if somebody had asked if it goes from hub to hub, like how does it get distributed? If the libraries it's coming from and going to are in the same hub, that material just stays in that hub. It doesn't get shipped around. However, if it's going from hub to hub, say you're a Kansas City hub and it's going to the St. Louis hub, it all comes to Kansas City then and then goes right out the next morning. So most, I might say more than 50% probably are just within hubs, because you're often borrowing from nearby libraries, but not always. So I did want to add that. So I think I'll add, I'm going to say one more thing about our professional development, and then if people have questions, I'm happy to see if I can answer them. We have gone to Mala Pro starting in July, which is a fee-based based on the size of your library. So the top largest libraries, something like a Mid-Continent, their fee would be $300 a year. An individual could purchase, or even a small library for, I want to say 100. I don't have it memorized. There's like 5 breakdowns. But what that gives is a chance for all of your staff to participate pretty inexpensively in our professional development. We have 2 sessions a month. So those members get a discounted rate, about 50% off. And then the other big bonus is if you're a Mala Pro library, after 3 months of the presentation, any of your staff can then access it on our niche academy. And so that gives, we're hoping a lot of libraries to have limited staff, staff that it's hard to send them, like at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday to, watch a Zoom, but they could at, 6 o'clock, because it's kind of slow some evening, watch it. So it kind of gives that opportunity. So we have about 20 I say 25 libraries have signed up, but I just wanted to give that little plug. It's all described on our website. If you want to look at that and you have any questions, our person in charge of that is our newest staff member named Portia. You can just find her email on the website, or you can call me or email me and I'll put you in touch or give you a plug for that. Okay, I just saw a chat question come up. Terry, I don't know that answer. Let me make a note and find out.
An adjunct to that question, are they putting our stuff inside postal service totes? Because those get misused a lot.
Yes, they are not supposed to be. And they have all been told that. However, we all know people sometimes don't follow the rules, but I will reemphasize that too. So if you see somebody using a post office bin, if you just shoot that onto that web form, we could then, because that gives us a specific, like, it's this route, it's this person who did it. We can then forward that to Henry and say, hey, something's up here. They are not supposed to be doing that. But again, it's hard to, they're kind of like cats sometimes. They're just hard to corral what's happening at that exact moment.
Well, Jane, did you say that you were only getting a few reports of things coming through USPS? Because through our Missouri Evergreen listservs, I think we get a lot more reports than that. And it seems not isolated. It just seems like we get a pocket and there's quite a bit of a response around, yes, we also got that. It may be quiet for a few weeks and then another pocket seems to come up. So I have a different experience than that.
So Shannon, the problem is if they're not reporting it, then all I have is the 5 that came in 2 weeks ago. So
yeah, and most say in the email that they are reporting it. So I don't know if maybe there's a disconnect where if it's not actually getting to the folks that you're in that it needs to.
I was going to say,
well, I mean, there's really only one place to report it, which is our web form, and I can go back and look, but I know this last batch all happened while I was out of town. And so I was just getting tons of emails those couple of days. So yeah, just please make sure you're putting it on the web form. And I think the choice is called other, because it's just a weird, we have a couple choices like missed stop or damaged items, but then other is what that goes under, but they all show up on our same Google form in a live format. So
well, and that's why I'm confused, as Meredith said, most of those said they did report it on the MALA form. So we assumed you were seeing the same data we're seeing, which is a lot more than just a few isolated incidents.
Okay, well, I know that week there was a cluster of them.
Yeah,
but
no, I think this is a recurring issue. I mean, I would say somebody help me out, at least monthly. I mean, it just seems to crop up a lot on our listservs that items are trickling through the post office that should be coming through the courier.
Yeah,
so it's happening a lot, and I think people are just kind of getting like they feel like they're talking into the wind a little bit. And I know that you have your issues that you have there with the communication and the way things are structured, but people kind of feel like they're just talking into the wind and not really seeing any traction there, unfortunately.
Right. Well, and it's just it's a hard thing because one driver could just be doing really wrong things, and it's hard to track that down because again, they're working individually. We trust that they're doing the right thing.
And
so until we can, we just have to have that reported.
And I'm speaking on behalf of everyone, but I think part of our concern is that our members are trying to look to see if it's coming from the same hub and what dates are on the tickets in the book. So they also are trying to use some sort of looking at what's coming in so they can try to figure out why it's happening. And we're not seeing any rhyme or reason. It just seems like an issue that is all of Henry through all the hubs, and it continues and it reoccurs and it reoccurs. So doesn't seem isolated to a driver or a hub. It just seems like a widespread Henry issue from what I can tell from what's being
except it's not statewide. So again, we're only hearing this from certain pockets of libraries. Some of the Evergreen libraries are part of that. They're not all Evergreen libraries. So it's a weird, that's what has the management at Henry kind of puzzles, because they also, so whatever you put on your other, like you say, the books came, they were our books, and they had been sent out to this library. The more information we have of that, they're trying to figure out what, and in the fall or late fall, early winter, that's how they discovered the problem at the Joplin hub of the mail bin being right next to the library bin, because of all of the people reporting like it came from this library going to this library, and that's when it ended up in the post office, or it came the other way. So they do keep track of this and those routes. And unfortunately, Evergreen is so geographically spread out a little bit that your libraries come under a couple of different hubs. So that's also the interesting factor.
So I know you said that most couriers are kind of set up this way. When do we, redo our contract, or when do we look for, do we RFP or?
Yeah, our contract is up with Henry in the spring. So
2022.
Yes. Yeah.
And do you do RFP process every time, or do you sometimes just go automatically renew, or?
I don't know the past, what has happened. I know when Mickey started, so we had Susan as the director forever. And when Mickey took over, and you guys will probably know it more than me, First Choice, I think was the company. Yeah, and there was so they severed, or I'm not sure on which side it was, because I wasn't here and Mickey's no longer here, and none of the staff, all the staff is new here. So they put out for bid. The problem is we're a very large state, and so you have to have somebody who's really interested in that kind of business. So that would be what would be happening if, but like the master courier in St. Louis, who dropped, Henry's contract because of the volume. So these folks are doing huge volumes of all kinds of things. So whether we would get a lot of choices, I don't know. That would be something we'll be doing later on.
Hey,
So I don't
Jane.
know.
Jane, just let me add, because this is
Sure, Robin. Robin, you're here. You probably know a lot of this.
because this is funded through an LSTA grant. It is required that it be bid out, because it's such a large amount, and so there will be a requirement that this will be bid out, and there'll be bid specs. So certainly that'll be part of the process come spring, as a grant is written by Mala,
right,
for the service.
So Robin, do you know, because is that what happened with the last one, or was there just some break? It seems like it was at an odd time of year.
So what happened last time, either Janet, if you're on, First Choice broke the contract.
That's what I,
because it does seem like it was an odd time for there to be a change.
Yeah, that's what I'm
courier.
So. Yeah, and it was right as Mickey took, not long after he started.
Yeah,
that's why I was wondering.
So I believe it was something that happened with First Choice, that they broke the contract, and then we were scrambling to get another courier in here. I think that
I've seen
but for sure there will be a bid process, and Mala will go through that, and these are things that we will make sure and Mala will make sure and put in the
right
RFP that has to do with the customer service aspect of it. And it would be great if they explain how they would rectify issues like this, that just be part of the process, so that these things are also then covered in any sort of contract that there is, and it not just be left to Henry and their folks to kind of decide how they want to handle it.
And just to circle back,
I think that'd be better for you, Jane. I mean, I think Jane, right at the beginning, to be able to start fresh and to write the RFP, knowing the difficulty that we've had, so that those things are addressed in a new contract.
Yeah, and ironically, because things are always so ironic, we get lots and lots of people loving Henry, that outweigh the number. So it's, just to know that no matter who we choose, someone's probably going to have some kind of issues, just because our state is so geographically, there's the small libraries that get only 1 day of service, and then it's just going to be I don't foresee 100% everyone's going to love our new whoever we choose. We just have to.
And I don't know how that would even be possible.
I
The
know.
fact that there are so many independent drivers who are not just driving for libraries, but they're driving for hospitals and doctors'
Right.
offices.
or the
And other
fourth.
businesses that, I mean,
No.
it's hard, but there certainly should be
but we-
something from Henry
Yeah.
that effectively addresses.
And
this.
we certainly, as opposed to Mickey, who was brand new at this, I'll have had a year and a half of figuring out, here are some of our main problems. The post office is a problem. Communication is a problem, which I think is going to be probably all of their weaknesses. But
And to circle back, Jane, does something that you said earlier for when there is a discrepancy and you tell Henry that we're not going to pay for something that you didn't do. For
Right.
libraries that are paying directly for additional service that isn't the subsidized, is there a protocol for that library getting a credit for that service that they paid for and didn't receive either? I did hear anecdotally from some people at MLA that they pursued it with the state library because they were consistently not getting what they paid for. But I was just curious, what's the best protocol for those individuals that are
Yeah.
paying for service they're not necessarily receiving on a
Well,
consistent basis?
contact me directly, because there's not going to be one answer, because everybody has a different, there are some people that have 5 days, 3 days are subsidized. There are some people have 5 days that 2 days are subsidized. There's some people that have 3. So it's going to be, instead of a blanket statement, just contact me and we'll keep track of that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Who was that? I couldn't tell who was talking.
Oh, it's Meredith McCarthy. I'm the chair of the subcommittee. So I was just passing on some of the concerns
Okay.
that I heard along the way. Thank you. I
Sure.
turned my video off, sorry.
That's okay. I was like, the voice is just coming out. I don't see anyone.
Are there more questions for Jane or more concerns about the courier?
Yeah, and just, call me anytime, email me. I'm very open. If you guys have any open houses, open groundbreakings, let me know. Robin and I met out at the Barry Lawrence one, so it's kind of nice to get to see people.
So I want to reiterate what you said. The first thing is to make connections with your local drivers and use it as an opportunity to share with them what's the preferred delivery times and the door to use and that
Yes.
type of
Well,
information.
And the preferred times is what Henry or I think all of them refer to as a window. And just know that some of these routes some of them are fairly compact, depending on if you're in, around St. Louis, they're just kind of all around there. But some of the ones coming out of St. Louis have to go quite a ways. It just depends on their route. So there is a window. If they don't meet the window, let us know, but it's a preferred window, not a guarantee, because it's really hard to guarantee it. But if they're consistently, I had someone yesterday, they were, let's say it was usually 10 to noon, and they just kept getting consistently late. What this person did was just ask the driver what was going on, and they had been given a new contract. And so map wise, it made sense to do the new contract before the library contract. But then when the library talked to them and said, hey, it works better for us, they didn't even have to get MALA involved. They just dealt with that contractor, the driver, and they just said, oh, yeah, we could just do it the other way. And they went back to their time. So sometimes it's as easy as the driver doesn't always know what that contract window always is, or how important that is to libraries. So sometimes it's just letting them know that. Some drivers are easier than others to do that with. But if there's a consistent problem, we need to let Henry know, because then they either need to reroute or there needs to be some discussion about those windows. So sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to.
No. And then on the RFP or the bid process that will happen, I'm assuming that's going to happen in the winter months of 2021, 2022?
That would be my guess, yeah.
Will there be an opportunity for Missouri Evergreen members to provide some input or feedback as to what they'd like those bid specs to look like or to include? I know things like just consistency or what would those refunds look like if they're not meeting the specs of the contract? What will there be an opportunity?
I don't know if there'll be that specific of an opportunity for all libraries, but if you had, thoughts you wanted to send to me, that's something I'll be working with Robin on. And I don't know how that's been done in the past. I'm thinking it's, more, because we want to make sure, but if your thoughts are something like that, what we're concerned about are these things, then yeah, just shoot them to me because I'm sure they're the same concerns I have. But there may be some, some other ideas.
I'm going to, just jot a note down.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions for Jane?
And I did just want to say for that, paying back to the post office, just put that in the other. I think I said it, but I wanted to make sure we don't necessarily need a document, any sort of documentation from them, unless it would be like, a couple $100. But if it's $9, we'll be glad to just take that on your word that it was $9.99 and we'll write you that check. So.
Ron, I'm wondering if we could put a button on the homepage of our website that links to that form to help our Missouri Evergreen members get to it quickly to be able to report their issues. Because as I said, we've had quite a bit of information from our listserv about courier issues, and I think more so than must be what's being reported to Mala. So I'm wondering if that might be something we could do to make it easier for members to share that with Mala. Is Ron still on the?
Sure, I can do that.
That'd be great. If there's no other questions for Jane or any more input on the courier service, we'll move to the next.
All.
Thank you, Jane, so much for being a part of our meeting
Oh,
today.
you bet.
Okay, so Robin with the Missouri State Library.
Wow, it's hard to believe, but I might be speechless and not have much to report. Gosh, it's all the same things that are in Show Me Express and then the forums, but we're just working through ARPA funds. See, I'm gonna make stuff up now. We're working through ARPA funds to get those out. There's still a grant opportunity that's open to anyone for the Strengthening Missourians grant, which is a fabulous opportunity with no max on the high end, where you can write a grant for projects that relate to response to the pandemic. It's broad enough that it could cover lots of things from lockers to online tutoring service to Wi-Fi extenders. There's just a wide variety of things that grant could be written for. And then we have our normal grant cycles going on. You can find all that information on our website. And Janet, unless I'm missing anything, I can't think of anything else to report.
I'm sure a lot of people know, but TMG grant applications are due Friday, October 15th.
That would be Tech Mini grants.
Tech Mini, yes, Tech Mini grants.
We
So if
work
you-
in just abbreviations here. That's JC right there. I'm RW.
Yep.
So yeah, we work in abbreviations. So yeah, Tech Mini grants.
So if you have any questions, you can email me or Terry directly, or also the LSTA at sos.mo.gov. That's email that's monitored. And that email will then be sent out to be answered because we know we're here. I'll put that here.
Actually, Shannon put the LSTA.sos.mo.gov.
Oh,
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you. And then we'll start doing evaluations and looking at apps, and it's great. We've already have quite a few in. So looking forward to seeing more.
I think that's all we got, Shannon.
Thanks so much. Does anyone have questions for Robin or Janet? No? Okay, well then I'll open the floor for any other matters or discussion to come before the membership this morning. Well, if not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this morning.
Sue Lightfoot, so moved.
Thank you, Sue. Do we have a second?
Second, Kate.
Thank you, Kate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your week and enjoy your weekend.